Is yours, is mine. Hey, look at the time. My God. So precious. Is yours, is mine.
Welcome to another episode of That Time I Got Arrested. This isn't about me actually getting arrested, but I feel like I could do this whole episode screaming, and I'm also not gonna do it in a British accent either, but I am gonna tell you about maybe one or two of the worst things that has ever happened to me. I know I keep saying that, but believe me this time. I love you. Follow me on Instagram. I don't feel like I meant for this whole podcast to be like, why do men suck? I mean, that wasn't my intention going into it. I don't even know what my intention is or was at this point. Now I just feel like this is therapy. This is, cathartic. This is me venting. This is me talking shit. This is me being super petty and like airing out my dirty laundry with my ex-boyfriends sometimes. That's actually what this episode is about. This is me airing some super dirty laundry about maybe one of the worst betrayals that I've ever experienced. Definitely top 5. I mean, even top 3, I would say. Worst betrayal that I've ever experienced in my entire life is what this episode is about. And it's important for me to tell you this stuff because I'm gonna explain all the stuff I wasn't gonna tell you about to begin with. So I'm gonna tell you about me jumping off a building, and this is sort of a precursor to that. It's like, why does a person, I mean, I'm sure you could probably think of a lot of reasons why, but why does a person just one day who exhibits no clear signs of distress, except actually maybe I did exhibit a lot of clear signs, but why does a person just one day jump off a 5-story building, Why? So I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why I'll never be British and why I jumped off a 5-story building because someone betrayed me. So I guess I really have to start with my dad. I've been dreading this. I don't want to have this conversation with you or with anyone. I don't want to talk about this in therapy. I don't want to have another nightmare about this. I don't even want to really face this reality myself, but I'm going to tell you the story about how my dad died. So my dad died when I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school, and he was killed in prison. His throat was cut in a bathroom with a, homemade knife, which I'm sure you can imagine was like not a super pleasant or dignified way to die. And my dad went to jail when I was 5, but I would say that him and I probably had the best relationship that we could have given those circumstances. My dad was really the only person that really, really loved me and really cared about me and really took time to show me that I was important to him. He would call me a bunch, usually like once a month or once a week, or he was always trying to get a hold of me and then talk to me for as long as he possibly could. I saw him maybe once or twice a year after he would, sort of beg and bother and plead with his sister, my aunt, and his side piece, also his wife, my stepmother, and they would fly me out to Florida and they would make sure that I saw him, and they would send me pictures of him. And my dad was dyslexic, so he didn't really, read very well, especially not English, because it was his second language. So we didn't write a lot of letters, even though that's something I probably would have been into. But what we did instead is we communicated through music. I used to make mixtapes for my dad and send them to him in federal prison, and he would listen to them, and then he would call me and he'd tell me which songs he likes and which songs he didn't like, and he'd tell me stories about how when he was 17 he used to follow the Grateful Dead around and make grilled cheese sandwiches in the parking lot and take acid and fuck hippie girls and really just have like the best time of his life. And I think so much of me is my dad. I really feel like I am my father's daughter versus my mother, who I really don't know anything about. I don't know my mother's favorite color or her favorite book or anything important about what makes her a person. But my dad, I knew him. He sent me flowers on my birthday every year, and he loved me. And when he died, it was, devastating, obviously, but like it was scary too, because when my dad died, it was kind of this whole thing again where, I'm being told that this has something to do with these gangsters that he messed with a long time ago. That's technically my fault. So it's all this guilt and abandonment and, grief and all these feelings crashing down on me when I'm 17 years old. And to sort of mitigate this disaster, my grandparents dealt with it the only way they knew how. They threw money at me. They sent me to Europe for 8 months, and it's like, what are you going to do? Say no to an all expenses paid trip? But when I was in Europe, I was a mess and I got arrested and I fucked up my whole life, essentially. That was like when things really started to get bad and I started to make all of the bad choices instead of the good ones. And I'm trying to look at this back in some kind of hindsight 2020 retrospective so that I can see where I went wrong and like what really set me off. And I think that maybe that's why I ended up in this situation that I'm going to tell you about now. But I think that it all started when my dad died. So my boyfriend and I decided to move in together, and he was in France for a study abroad program. And we used to Skype a lot because I was in Japan and then I was in Chicago. And I even went to France to visit him at one point. And we had this, silly little thing that I would say to him over and over again because I loved Casablanca. And I used to say in the end of all of my sappy emails or the end of every little like love note that I would write him, I would write, "We will always have Paris." So I came back to the States and he came back to the States. And as soon as he came back, we saw each other in Chicago and we decided that we were going to move in together. Now, when he was in Europe, obviously, I didn't expect him to, be monogamous with me. He's traveling. He's doing a lot of stuff. I mean, I was traveling too, but we didn't have those sort of relationship expectations where it was like, you're not going to fuck anyone while you're in France, right? Like that conversation never happened. It was more like we would Skype every night and we would say, "I love you." And one time he picked like a blonde hair off of his bed and I saw it and I was like, it was a long blonde hair. It definitely didn't belong to him. And I just kind of thought, okay, I'm like, what is that? Is that something that I need to like worry about or know about? And he just kind of laughed and rolled his eyes and said, no, and that was all I heard of her at first, the first couple of months. And when we decided to move in together, it was like he had met this girl. I knew that she existed, but as far as he could tell me, it was a fling that happened in France, that stayed in France, and it was impractical and not something that he was invested in. So, okay, cool. We'll go with that. You're my soulmate. I love you. That's fine. I'll choose to believe that, even though I knew somewhere inside of me that probably wasn't the case, But I mean, denial and like delusion is a powerful thing. So I just decided that I was going to be okay with that, whatever that was. So this was in December, and we finally moved in together about 6 months later. And over that 6 months, we had kept in touch. We had seen each other a couple of times. He had come to Chicago. I went to Charleston to go see him. And we had, like a real relationship that culminated in us cohabitating. So we move in. And do you want to know when I found out about this girl? Like, really? Like, do you really want to know when I found out? Because this is like the real thing that girls probably don't talk about openly. But I found out the first night. I mean, I literally found out about this other woman the night that he moved in, because I went through his phone while he was sleeping, because I didn't fucking trust him, because I don't really trust anyone, I guess, like maybe I trusted my dad, but he's dead. So like, I don't trust anybody. And I went through his phone, and not only did he have this ongoing, deep emotional relationship with this other person, but he was openly saying like, I love you, I miss you, I can't wait to see you again. And I was just kind of like, wait, what? Like, I thought we were, wait, what? I thought we were like doing this whole thing together. So just right as soon as he moved in, it was like poisoned. I knew that he was lying. I knew that, he wasn't being truthful to one of us. He was either doing it to me or he was either doing it to her. And it was kind of like a gamble of like who is getting the real version of himself, And I took him in knowing that he was a liar. And I was thinking, maybe we could be honest together. Maybe we can learn how to love unconditionally and do that with someone that has the same problem. But there's a difference when you lie to protect yourself and when you lie to, when your lies like hurt people. So when we were in college, he slept around a bunch. He fucked all of his roommates. He had sex with his ex. He had sex with girls in our social circle. He definitely wasn't the type of guy that was like, oh, I can trust you. You're faithful. I expect you to act accordingly. It was more like I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But I was so obsessed with him. It didn't matter. Every girl that he fucked, he would turn around and say, but I love you, and like, I'm like, okay, well, if we're in love, then that's just sex. And I can excuse that away. And I can, make that somehow make sense in my head that it's fine. We can fuck other people and we can still be in love and be together. Even though I think somewhere deep down that didn't always feel right, I still felt like that was something that I could work with. But, months into us living together, it just never stopped. He would openly lie to me and then openly lie to her. And even though I would sort of give him opportunities and chances and make it seem like I already knew, because I did. I was going through his phone regularly. I was like reading all of his DMs to her. I saw what their relationship was like. And then you will fucking love this. But this is not even that crazy, even though some of you are going to be like, you fucking crazy bitch. I installed spyware into his phone so that I could see like what he was really doing all of the time, because I felt like he was constantly lying to me. I had no idea where he was, who he was with, what he was talking about, who he was talking to. For some reason, I thought that it was my job to protect him, but I also wanted to know, what the fuck was going on with him? Like, is he using me? Like, am I willingly being used? Like, what? Does he love me? Like, is he sick? Is he a drug addict? Like, where is he going? Like, what is he doing all day? So I had this spyware that was free, that was on an Android phone. We both used to have Androids. And I read like every message that he had with this girl, and I knew where he was, all the time. And eventually, I did tell him that I had all of that information, and I wrestled for months with this sort of guilty weight. Like, do I tell her? Do I reach out to her and be like, yo, we fucking live together. Like, do you have any idea what is going on? And she's starting to get suspicious because he can only talk to her when I'm not home. He can only Skype with her when I'm out during the day at work, and we hang out every night and do a lot of shit together. So it's like he's busy a lot and he's not able to be like, oh, booby, I love you, like he's actually living with me. And he was, living a double life, even though now he's in a time and place and space where he can openly explore his sexuality. It's almost like that's what his real kink is just being super fucking two-faced. So, finally he found out that I knew everything, and I still didn't tell her about it just because I felt like, I don't know, I felt like she needed to find out, but if I did it, it would be sort of like evil because I wanted to like destroy her. Like I really, really grew to hate this person. She was just probably like the crux of my insecurity in life, this tall, blonde, British woman, like all things I can never be, no matter how hard I try. I'm never going to be 5'7". Like I'm never going to have fucking blonde hair. Like I will never be British, like how do you fucking compete with that? And I've never really been, super insecure when it comes to like guys or relationships. It's always been somewhat, as fucked up as this sounds, it's always been like somewhat easy for me. It's like I usually will if I want to like fuck someone, what I have to do is like let them know that I'm trying to fuck them, and then that's usually like my situation with guys. Not all the time, and not obviously if they're dating someone, but like, and I know that's an asshole thing to say, but that is usually how it goes with dudes. It's like, if I want to fuck them, I just let them know, and it's that easy. So for this guy that I'm so in love with and so obsessed with, and I've been with him for years, and we have this amazing sex, and I feel like I can really be myself in front of him, and he is fucking in love with this British girl online and telling her that he can't wait to see her, and that they're gonna be together and that they're gonna like have kids. Like it was such a serious like relationship lie that he was selling her. He had this future all planned out that they were sort of talking about, but then again, so were we. Like we had a future, like we had all these plans, like we talked about our kids. It was just mind-boggling to see someone treat someone exactly the same that they would you, and you're supposedly in love with them. So it's like, is anything real? Like, are you real? Are you in love with her? Are you in love with me? Like, I started to question everything in my reality, and I still didn't fucking kick him out. You know what I mean? Like, even after all this, I'm still paying all the bills. Like, I'm still having wild sex with him. I'm still very deeply entrenched in this, what I would really call it now is like an abusive relationship. So finally she finds out, she gets suspicious and she starts questioning him and, postulating things that were true, which is basically like, are you dating someone? Like, do you live with somebody? Like, what is your fucking deal? What are you doing in Chicago? And finally he broke down one day, like Wednesday afternoon, he broke down and he told her, the truth, that he had a girlfriend, that he was living with her, and, that he still loved her, is what he said. And they ended up having some long Skype conversation, and her and I eventually ended up talking. And now here's where the story gets kind of like crazy, like Dateline, like weird part, So she's talking with him and he's talking with me, and her and I are talking together. And so now the three of us are all in this like group chat, basically, not all at the same time, but we're all fucking talking to one another. And she Skypes with him and eventually recorded him saying, and this is after I told her about, the spyware and how long I've known about everything, but she records him saying on Skype that he openly said, I'm using her, meaning me, using her so that I can get a job and save up and get back to you. So she like plays me this recording of him actually saying that, which is not something that I really ever expected to hear, even though it was my worst fear. It was the thing that I was the most afraid of in that dynamic and was kind of hoping was the last thing that was really true. But I heard it with his own fucking voice. And I think that was a huge turning point for me. Even though I didn't kick him out, even though we didn't break up, even though we stayed together for 9 more months, that's still, I mean, I was never the same, and our relationship was never the same. So she played me that recording, and then I knew exactly what to tell her to kind of get her out of the way, you know, and I just told her he fucks dudes like regularly and has been since he was 16, and, you know, was basically a prostitute in high school. Like I told her all of his dirty secrets, and as soon as she found out, I mean, she basically had a laugh and then, like, you know, skipped along her merry way. She told him to fuck off. She called him a rent boy, which I just thought was very British and chic of her to say. And then her and I made plans to meet up in Italy a couple of months later. And that never ended up happening, but we follow each other on Instagram. So it's like weird. I don't have any contact with him whatsoever at this point in our life. You know, the only way that we talk is through our lawyers. But I talked to this fucking girl, this British girl, this beautiful blonde British, like, theatrical artist, and she's like forever a part of my life and my story, and I will tell you the end of it now. So here's where it all goes. Here's where it all really goes. So I should say that this was a really difficult time in my life for so many reasons, but one of which being that kind of right when all of this happened, I'd say within the same like 2-week vicinity, because it's hard to remember exactly, you know, what happened first. Like, did she happen first, or did the recording happen, or did my stepmother die? Like, when did that all go down? I don't remember. But anyways, so my stepmother who took care of me, you know, for as long as she fucking could. She sent me $100 every week when I was in prison. She always sent me money for food when I was in college and I was broke. She made sure that I saw my dad whenever I could, and she really was there for me. You know, if something bad happened, before I would call my grandparents, before I would call my own fucking mother, I would call her. And I would ask her for help, and she didn't like me, but she helped me, and she loved me because my dad loved me, and that's how much she loved my dad. But this same year, this same 3 months, this same vicinity of time, she was killed in her home. Someone broke in the middle of the night and they cut her throat, just like my dad. And I think that they were looking for money, looking for cash, looking for, I don't know, something that she didn't have. And so she ended up paying with her life, which was so fucking devastating to me at that point. And it's just like when you lose people, when you lose your sense of reality, you really bury yourself in the most abusive and negative things that you can find, because it's almost like that has to be a place where you can be dark and displace your grief with, you know, some other kind of emotional, mental, or physical pain. So she died, and this whole thing with this British girl went down, and she ended up breaking up with him, and I should have kicked him out. I should have at this point been like, you're bad and you don't love me and you're actually just using me and you suck. I should have just been like, you suck, get out. But I didn't, you know, I didn't do that at all. I said, I hate you, but like, I love you. And like, are you like, do you want to stay? Like, I even asked him, I gave him the option. I'm like, do you want to leave? Like, do you want to stay? What's the deal? And like, yeah, he wanted to stay in his rent-free Lincoln Park, you know, apartment. And he wanted to stay in Chicago, you know, having wild sex and doing cocaine every weekend. Like he wanted to stay in that life, you know? So he told me that he loved me and that, you know, it was really me the whole time, and that she was just some fantasy, and that I was real, and that I really knew him, and that she didn't know him. And it was fucking stupid. It was like so cliche now that I'm looking back, like all the shit that he said that made me feel like, yeah, let's keep going down this fucking sick, demented path together. So here's how the story ends. Is that we lived together, right? And he brought all of his stuff from South Carolina, and there was this box that was full of books, and I was unpacking. Like, we had a small third bedroom that served as sort of like an office / like guest room, and I was unpacking this box of books, and he's like, no, not that one. And I was like, why not this one? And he said, well, that's just got junk in it. I don't want to unpack that. And I said, oh, okay. So I put the box away, and, we like finished doing what we were doing. And eventually I'm alone in the apartment, and I'm just thinking, what the fuck was in that box? Like, what was in that fucking box? So what's in the box, man? So I went and I opened the box, and I found this book. That she had made him, that was a picture book of a trip that they had taken to Paris. And it was basically like our trip to Paris. He like took her to restaurants that I picked out. He took her to museums that I raved about. He took her to like secret spots that my grandmother told me about. Like, he basically recreated our Paris trip, and she took a bunch of pictures and she turned it into a book, and she gave it to him. And at the very end of the book, on the last page, it said, "We'll always have Paris." And here's the most fucked up part. He's never seen Casablanca. Like, he's never seen that movie. And she had probably never seen that movie, because if they had seen that fucking movie, here's what they know, is that couple doesn't end up in the end. That's what you say to someone that you don't get to be with. So it's almost like a cursed phrase. So yeah, I said it because like I understood what that meant, but they said it to each other. He stole it from me. She stole it from him. And now it's like living in my apartment, this like proof, this like physical, tangible evidence of this psychopath basically just like stealing my fucking life, like stealing my heart and then like giving it to somebody else. It was fucked up. It was sick. I told him that I found the book, and he's like, "What'd you do with it?" And I told him that I burned it. And which obviously I feel like is something that I totally deserve to do. Like, how dare you bring that into my home? But the truth is I didn't burn it. The truth is I still have it. It's like in a box in my storage unit, like with all of my fucking books. Like I kept this book. I wanted to burn it. I meant to burn it. I made plans with my friends to go down to the lake and fucking burn it. And I was gonna burn it, but I didn't. I still have it. Several years later, I still have this like tangible proof of probably one of the worst betrayals that I'll ever know. Like, I don't think anyone will ever even be able to hurt me that much, because I will never love anyone that much again. And that's like the fucked up thing about, like really loving someone. Like it changes you. And when it gets fucked up, like you never get that again, So here's what I have for you guys at the end of all of this. I don't have any ads. I mean, maybe I will someday, but I don't have any ads. But I was thinking about this. I think I'm going to sell pages of that book. So if you listen to this episode and you feel moved by this story at all, and you feel like you want to participate in this cathartic journey of, healing and whatever the fuck you want to call this podcast. I don't know. If you want to participate, I will sell you a page of this book and you can burn it. But I'm going to sell it for like $1,000 a page. So you have to be really committed to the cause. I feel like that's probably a little unrealistic for most people who listen, to drop $1,000 on something like that. So I don't expect to sell all of it or any of it, but if that is something that interests you, that is a very serious offer that I have. I will sell you a page of this book, and I hope that you burn it, and I would love it if you sent me like a video of you burning a page of this book, of this brutal, fucking devastating, disgusting, really, betrayal. So you can burn this book. You can burn a page of this book. It'll cost you $1,000, and I promise I'll put that money into the podcast, and I'm just gonna buy more drugs with it and give them away for iTunes reviews, because if you can't turn your trauma into gold, then I mean, really, what the fuck are we doing here? You know, you guys want to know about how I became a comedian? You want to know about how I started a podcast? You want to know about how, you know, this shit works? A lot of people are like, I've got stories. Like, you got a story? Like, I'll tell you how to get your story out there. You know, maybe that's what this podcast is about. I don't know. I know that I love you, and that I hope that this was like entertaining in some way. I've been dreading this. I've honestly been dreading this, but now that it's over, I feel, I don't know, lighter. Maybe that's the whole point of this. $1,000 though, for one page is my running offer. And yeah, sorry this wasn't funny, but I'm just like, I don't care. I'm mad. I'm still mad. I'm mad at her even, you know, even though it's not her fault at all. I'm mad at her, and I'm mad at him, and I'm mad at men in general, and I'm mad at relationships, and I'm mad that people lie to each other, and I'm mad that shit like this ever happens to anyone, really. I'm just upset. So I'm just going to go ahead and be upset, and I'll go about my day and, you know, holler at your girl if you want to drop $1,000 on one of these fucking pages. I mean, really. Let me know. So see you next week. Love you. Bye.